Today we're all about the Epiphone Texan. I have two vintage ones from 1964. They both have cool stories. We're going to talk Beatles, specs, history, reissues, and of course, sound. This is the first Texan I've ever owned, and I bought it from the artist Garland Jeffries in 2002. A documentary about his career just came out. He was friends with artists like Lou Reed and Bruce Springsteen, and had a hit with a remake of 96 Tears in the 80s. He used this Texan to record on his albums Ghost Rider and Don't Call Me Buckwheat. He also performed live with it. Notice the adjustable bridge has been changed to a fixed one. In order to use it live, he also installed an I-beam pickup system under the bridge and put the output jack where the end pin was. It actually sounds really great. He kindly offered to sign the guitar for me, but I declined because I wanted to make the guitar's identity mine. Luckily, he signed the back of the check I had prepared for him, which understandably he wouldn't accept. I paid in cash. I still keep the voided check with his autograph on the back in the case. Halloween 2002. The second Texan I am lucky to own is really cool too because it's all Beatles spec and was photographed and appears in the book Beatles Gear by Andy Babuke. The model of Paul's Texan is an FT-79N, N for natural finish. It's a right-handed guitar flipped over and restrung for left-handed playing. Like many of the Beatles guitars, Paul's Texan is a bit transitional in terms of specs. The bridge is black injection molded plastic which is secured to the guitar's top with 4 screws. They were made in both adjustable saddle and fixed saddle versions. With the Beatles, Paul had a ceramic adjustable insert which later was taken out to install a proper fixed saddle to compensate for stringing the guitar lefty. The plastic bridges were only used by Gibson and Epiphone for a short time between 1963 and sometime in the mid-60s, probably 1965. By 65, most bridges went back to rosewood. The tuners are Kluson Deluxe white oval plastic and they're all in a row on each side. These are the same tuners used at the time on the Gibson counterpart model, the J-45. Like the J-45, the body is slope-shouldered. The inlays on the neck are trapezoid-shaped, much like what is found on the Epiphone Casino. But what I didn't know until I made this video was that they go in opposite directions from each other. Let's take a close look at this baby from 1964. The top is spruce and the back and sides are mahogany. The natural colored Texans made in '64 tend to have mahogany sides and backs that are lighter, more honey-colored brown, as opposed to the sunburst Texans which seem to have a darker color. The truss rod sports the E logo and has 2 screws, one on top and one directly below at the bottom. And just in case you're wondering what kind of strings I use on the Texan, they're MA535 Phosphorus Bronze by Martin, Custom Light 11. In 1873, Anastasios Stathopoulos started building lutes and fiddles in Smyrna, which is in present-day Turkey but was part of the Ottoman Empire at the time. The family later moved to the United States in 1903, and when he died in 1915, his son Epiphone took over the company. He was just 22 years old. The company produced its recording line of banjos in 1924, and 4 years later took on the name of the Epiphone Banjo Company. It produced its first guitars in 1928. The name Epiphone is a combination of the proprietor Epiphanitis Stathopoulos' nickname Epi and phone, from Greek phone is voice. In 1957, the company was acquired by CMI, who also owned Epiphone's rival, Gibson. The Texan was first introduced in 1958 by Epiphone after the company was purchased by Gibson, but the underlying FT-79 model that the Texan was based on first appeared in 1942, before the Gibson merger. In 1958, the Texan name was officially added to the FT-79 model, which was then produced in Gibson's Kalamazoo, Michigan factory until 1970. There have been many iterations and reissues of the FT-79 Epiphone Texan. A lot of them aren't really like Paul's. By the end of the 1960s, the Texan strayed pretty far from the specs of Paul McCartney's guitar. Check out these Texans from 1968 and you'll see what I mean. One has a reverse belly bridge and a narrower pickguard that is screwed into the top of the guitar. The E logo had started to appear in its raised version in 1965, and adjustable saddles were rosewood rather than ceramic. By 1970, Texans were being made outside of the U.S. Here's a timeline of where they were being manufactured. Basically, with a couple of exceptions, Texan models with varying specs were made in Japan in the 70s, South Korea in the 80s and 90s, and China and Indonesia from the early 2000s to present day. I won't go over every version because you won't sleep at night if I do, but in 2020, Epiphone resumed manufacturing for some Texans in the USA as part of its USA collection. The first time I started to see them being produced with specs close to Paul McCartney's was sometime around the year 2000 in Japan at a store called With. They were really the predecessor for the elitist Texans that would eventually be made in larger numbers in Japan. I did actually wind up years later with a McCartney-spec'd Casino that was selling at the time. It was called the 1964 model, only 60 were made. Even though it was made in 1962, they called it the 1964 model, probably because he bought the guitar in 1964. In 2005, Paul McCartney himself overlooked the production of his signature Texans. The first run of 40 had unique features, including a hand-aging process to recreate every bump and every ding of the original, actually signed by Paul McCartney, a display case, and a certificate of authenticity. True to Sir Paul's original, the Texans are right-hand models, strung and set up for left-hand play, and even include the small gap between the back strip and the center block. They weren't exactly for average folks. They cost about $50,000, and it didn't have a plastic bridge. The second run of 250 Texans also mirrored Paul's instrument. Made in the USA, it had everything but the plastic bridge. Actually, none of them had the plastic bridge, and also had a real McCartney autographed sound hole label, custom case, and a certificate of authenticity. These were $5,000, with proceeds going to landmine victim charity. But since then, they've gone up a little bit. Finally, a production of 1,964 Texans made in Japan were offered, and they were very close to the USA-made guitars and had a sound hole label with a facsimile of McCartney's signature. They cost about $2,000. But there are more affordable Texans available, like the Master-Built Texan. These are made in Indonesia and offer a built-in pickup and overall good tone, according to the reviews. It has the Beatles look without the price. In trying to research when he actually bought it, I found conflicting results. Some sources say in the summer of 1964, Paul McCartney purchased his Epiphone Texan at Sound City Music Shop in London. However, some say he bought it sometime in 1965. Then there's the story that he purchased it at Manny's in New York City. And look at this. Here it literally says New York and London. Huh? Apparently you have to believe either Reverb or Instagram. I don't know which team you're on. According to the serial number, the guitar left the Kalamazoo, Michigan factory on May 23, 1964. Either way, it had to be purchased before June 14th of 1965 because that was the day that the recording for Yesterday began. It's first seen in public in August 1965 at the ABC Theater in Blackpool for a live performance of Yesterday. It's over. I got laundry to do. Thanks for taking this journey with me. Don't forget to subscribe and like. See you next time.